I do know Naomi, and I knew her before I met Mr. Epstein and the former President Clinton.
Ghislaine Maxwell says, Meghan Markle involved with Jeffrey Epstein? Ooh, and also we got a situation with Fergie. Oh yeah, we got Ghislaine Maxwell.
Meghan Markle wants the world focused on fresh starts. Scroll through her Instagram and you'll see sunshine, calm confidence, and a carefully curated message about authenticity, growth, and building something meaningful on her own terms. It's the image of a woman who survived chaos and come out stronger. But while that story plays out publicly, a very different conversation has been quietly growing in the background, one she has never addressed, never denied, and never taken to court. Online. Whispers keep resurfacing about the years Meghan rarely discusses. The time before Suits, before royalty, before the carefully crafted narrative ever took shape. And now, those whispers have collided with a name that makes people deeply uncomfortable: Ghislaine Maxwell. Reports and rumors suggest Maxwell, from behind prison walls, may be holding information about elite social circles that could drag long-buried questions back into the light. Nothing verified, nothing released publicly, but enough speculation to make silence feel louder than any denial ever could. Because here's the part that keeps people talking. Meghan has pushed back hard against other claims in the past lawsuits, statements, PR counterattacks. Yet on this specific set of allegations, the response has been absolute radio silence. No clarification, no legal threats, no dismissal. And in the court of public opinion, silence doesn't end rumors. It feeds them. So what is it about this chapter of her past that never gets addressed? Why do these stories keep resurfacing no matter how carefully her image is managed today? And why do critics believe the unanswered questions matter more now than ever? To understand that, you have to go back to the years nobody talks about and the networks few outsiders ever fully see. Long before royal titles and Netflix deals, Meghan Markle was just another aspiring actress trying to break through in Hollywood. After graduating from Northwestern, she moved to Los Angeles with big ambitions and very little industry power. Her early resume shows exactly what you'd expect: small roles, brief appearances, inconsistent work. Nothing resembling real fame. Nothing resembling serious money. By most standards, she was still struggling. And yet, during those same years, something doesn't quite line up. Photos began circulating online showing Meghan at luxury destinations most working actresses could barely dream of affording. Mediterranean yacht trips, high-end European events, exclusive gatherings in Monaco and beyond. Not red carpets, not film festivals, private settings, the kind usually reserved for people with serious wealth or very specific invitations. Now, to be clear, none of this proves wrongdoing. Traveling isn't a crime. Having wealthy friends isn't illegal. But critics keep asking the same uncomfortable question: how does a relatively unknown actress, earning modest cable TV money at best, gain access to environments that are famously closed off to outsiders? These aren't places you stumble into. They're controlled, curated, and heavily vetted. The official explanation has always been vague: friends, connections, networking. And sure, networking matters in Hollywood. But billionaire yacht culture doesn't operate like casting rooms or charity mixers. Access is transactional, intentional, and selective. People don't just invite strangers for fun. Especially not strangers with no obvious leverage. That unanswered gap, the disconnect between Meghan's public career status and her private access, became the seed from which years of speculation grew. Not because of what's proven, but because of what's never been clearly explained. And once the internet senses a missing chapter, It doesn't let go. And that curiosity only deepens when one particular name and one very powerful private club enter the story. This is where the conversation almost always turns to Soho House. On paper, it's a private members club for creatives, actors, producers, fashion insiders, entrepreneurs. In reality, critics describe it as something far more influential, a global networking hub, where access is the currency and introductions can change lives. That part isn't secret. Soho House has openly marketed itself as a place where connections happen behind closed doors, away from cameras and public scrutiny. Meghan's connection to Soho House is well documented. During her Suits years in Toronto, she became a regular within that circle, forming a close association with Marcus Anderson, the club's global membership director. His role isn't symbolic. His job is deciding who gets in, who gets introduced, and who gets placed in rooms that matter. That's not casual friendship, that's professional gatekeeping. At the highest level, supporters say this explains everything. Meghan was ambitious, social, and smart about networking. She found the right environment and built relationships the way countless people in entertainment do. End of story. But critics see it differently. They argue Soho House isn't just about mingling, it's about strategic proximity to power. And once someone is inside that ecosystem, doors open that would otherwise stay firmly shut. What keeps the speculation alive is timing. Meghan's international travel, elite invitations, and sudden access to influential circles all align with her deepening presence inside the Soho House network. Again, none of that proves anything improper, but it does show how quickly her world expanded once she was plugged into a system designed to connect attractive, ambitious people with wealth, influence, and opportunity. And then there's the part nobody disputes. Soho House is where Meghan eventually met Prince Harry, not through chance, not through Hollywood auditions, through a controlled introduction inside an elite social pipeline. To critics, that wasn't luck, it was proof that the system worked exactly as intended. But for some observers, this wasn't just smart networking. They believe it followed a pattern that certain insiders would recognize immediately. This is where the story takes a darker turn and where everything must be handled carefully. Ghislaine Maxwell is not just another controversial name floating around online. She's a convicted figure tied to one of the most disturbing elite scandals in modern history. And because of that, any rumor connected to her carries a weight that ordinary gossip simply doesn't single quotes t. To be absolutely clear, there is no publicly released document from Maxwell naming Meghan Markle. Nothing verified. Nothing entered into court records. What exists instead are reports, online claims, and speculation suggesting that Maxwell may possess information about numerous public figures who moved through elite social circles long before their names were household words. Meghan's name has surfaced in that speculative conversation not as a proven participant in anything illegal, but as someone critics believe may have crossed paths with the same high-net-worth environments. Why does this speculation stick? Because Maxwell's reputation, before her conviction, was built on one thing: access. She was widely described as a gatekeeper, someone who understood how elite men socialized, how introductions were made, and how certain women moved through those worlds. People who push these rumors argue that Maxwell recognized patterns, not crimes, patterns of ambition, proximity, and strategic relationships. Again, that does not mean those interpretations are correct. But in the public imagination, the idea that someone so deeply embedded in elite networking culture could spot familiar strategies is enough to keep questions alive, especially when those questions overlap with unexplained access, private events, and timelines that critics already find confusing. What makes this even more uncomfortable is motive. Maxwell, serving a long sentence with a reputation already destroyed, isn't seen by online commentators as someone chasing fame or public approval. That perception, fair or not, leads some to believe she has little reason to invent stories and every reason to trade information quietly behind the scenes. Not for redemption, but for leverage. And that's the real reason these rumors don't disappear. It's not because anything has been proven. It's because people believe there may be information that hasn't surfaced yet, and once that idea takes hold, silence starts to feel ominous. And that silence, more than any rumor, is what critics focus on next. By this point, the pattern critics point to isn't about photos or rumors anymore. It's about response or the lack of one. Meghan Markle has never been shy about defending herself publicly when she believes a line has been crossed. She's issued statements, corrected narratives, and taken legal action when stories threatened her image. That history matters because it shows she knows how to fight back when she wants to. That's why this particular silence stands out. On the yacht rumors, on the elite networking allegations, on the speculation tied to Maxwell's name, there's been no public denial, no firm statement calling the claims false, no legal threat warning people to stop repeating them. Just quiet. And in the world of celebrity and media, quiet is rarely neutral. To be clear, silence does not equal guilt. Many public figures are advised by lawyers to ignore online speculation rather than amplify it. But critics argue this situation is different. These rumors have circulated for years, growing louder, more detailed, and more widespread. Yet they've never been directly confronted. And that's exactly what keeps them alive. Online commentators frame it this way. If the claims were completely baseless, a single firm denial could shut them down. But denying opens a door, one that leads to questions, timelines, receipts, and scrutiny of past travel, relationships, and introductions. Once that door is open, it's hard to control what walks through. Supporters say Meghan is doing the smart thing by refusing to engage with internet speculation. Critics say the silence feels calculated, like someone avoiding a subject that could spiral beyond their control. Two interpretations. Same behavior. Very different conclusions, and that's the uncomfortable reality. The longer the silence lasts, the more people project meaning onto it. What began as fringe gossip becomes a recurring talking point. Not because new evidence appears, but because nothing ever closes the loop. And once people start revisiting the past with fresh eyes, timelines become the next battleground. When speculation refuses to fade, people start lining events up side by side, searching for patterns. And this is where critics believe Meghan Markle's timeline raises more questions than answers again. Not because of proven wrongdoing, but because of how neatly certain moments seem to connect dots start with what's verified. Meghan graduates from Northwestern, moves to Los Angeles, and spends years auditioning with limited success. Small roles come and go. Money is tight. She's not a recognized name. Then, during that same period, she begins appearing in photos at high-end destinations, luxury yachts, private European events, elite social gatherings. Not industry mixers. Not public premieres. Private environments that usually require either wealth, influence, or invitation. Then comes Suits. Her breakout role arrives not through a highly publicized audition process, but through industry connections, as many roles are. Critics argue that by this point, she'd already spent years building relationships in elite circles, particularly through Soho House. That network, they say, didn't just elevate her social life, it positioned her for opportunity. Next is London. Meghan's ties to Soho House deepen. She's comfortable in exclusive settings, fluent in social dynamics that often take newcomers years to learn. And then comes the introduction to Prince Harry again, not random, not accidental, but facilitated through the same private network that had surrounded her rise for years. Supporters see this timeline as ambition meeting opportunity. Right place, right time, smart networking. Critics see something more strategic, a steady climb fueled by proximity to power rather than pure talent or chance. Same facts, two interpretations. That's what keeps the debate alive. What unsettles critics most isn't any single moment, it's the consistency. At every turning point, someone influential appears. A gatekeeper, a connector, a powerful figure opening the next door. And while none of that proves manipulation or misconduct, it challenges the fairy tale version of events Meghan publicly leans on, because once you accept that elite access shaped her path, the story stops being about destiny and starts being about design. And if that interpretation were ever supported by real evidence, the consequences wouldn't just be personal, they'd be devastating. This is where the conversation shifts from rumor to consequence. Because if any of these claims ever moved from speculation into verified fact, the fallout wouldn't be subtle. It would be immediate, and it would be brutal. Meghan Markle's entire post-royal identity is built on one core idea: authenticity. The image of a woman who overcame adversity, challenged institutions, and built her own empire through resilience and purpose. That image is the product. It's what sells podcasts, production deals, speaking engagements, and lifestyle branding. But critics argue that image collapses the moment the backstory changes. If evidence ever emerged showing her rise was fueled primarily by elite networking and strategic relationships with powerful men, the inspirational narrative loses credibility overnight. Not because networking is illegal, but because it contradicts the story. She's selling. Corporate partners don't like ambiguity. Streaming platforms don't gamble on controversy that can't be controlled. Sponsors don't wait around for public opinion to stabilize. We've already seen how quickly deals disappear when reputations become unpredictable. In that context, even unproven allegations are dangerous if they gain traction. Then there's Prince Harry. His decision to leave royal life, fracture family relationships, and publicly defend Meghan was rooted in trust. If critics were ever proven right, that she understood elite power games far better than she let on, Harry wouldn't just look misled. He'd look played. And that perception alone could permanently damage how history views him. This is why silence becomes strategic. Engaging invites scrutiny. Scrutiny invites discovery. And discovery, even of uncomfortable but legal truths, can shatter a carefully constructed brand. From that perspective, staying quiet isn't weakness, it's risk management. But risk management only works for so long, because the longer unanswered questions linger, the harder they are to contain. By now, it's clear why this conversation refuses to disappear. It isn't driven by new evidence or official disclosures. It survives because of unresolved curiosity. In the internet age, unanswered questions don't fade, they recycle. Forums revisit them. Commentators reframe them. Old photos resurface with new captions. And every time the story reappears, it picks up new believers. Another reason is secrecy itself. Elite networks are designed to leave minimal public footprints. Private clubs protect member privacy. Wealthy individuals use NDAs as standard practice. Records exist, but they're sealed, buried, or inaccessible to the public. That lack of transparency doesn't prove misconduct, but it creates a vacuum where speculation thrives. Then there's the Epstein shadow. That case left the public with a permanent sense that powerful people escaped accountability. No full client list. No clear closure. Just fragments and unanswered questions. So when any public figure is rumored to have crossed paths with those circles, even tangentially, the internet fills in the gaps with suspicion, not facts. Supporters argue this is deeply unfair. That Meghan is being targeted because she's polarizing, visible, and profitable to attack. Critics counter that public figures who build brands on transparency invite scrutiny into the parts of their lives they don't explain. Two sides talking past each other with no resolution in sight, and so the cycle continues. Silence fuels curiosity. Curiosity fuels content. Content fuels belief, not because the story is proven, but because it's unfinished, and that leaves one final question hanging over everything. At the end of the day, what keeps this story alive isn't proof. It's the gaps, the unanswered questions, and the silence that surrounds them. Meghan Markle's public image is polished, deliberate, and carefully controlled a narrative of authenticity, resilience, and triumph. But whenever a chapter of her past is left unexplained, speculation rushes in to fill the void. Critics argue that silence in the face of recurring rumors only makes the story louder. Supporters insist it's smart strategy. Either way, the effect is the same. People are endlessly curious. Social media, podcasts, blogs, and forums replay the narrative, connecting dots and weaving timelines, whether or not the connections are accurate. What this demonstrates is the power of perception in the digital age. For celebrities and public figures, what isn't said often matters as much as what is. Questions left unanswered are not neutral. They shape public opinion, fuel discussion, and sometimes define legacy. Ultimately, this isn't about proving guilt or innocence. It's about understanding how mystery, access, and silence interact to create a story that refuses to go away. Meghan's past, the connection she cultivated, and the network she moved through documented, rumored or unexplained, continue to intrigue, to inspire debate, and to remind us that in the age of constant scrutiny, what you don't say can echo louder than anything you do, and in that echo, the story keeps living. Long after any Instagram post, interview, or public statement has faded,